Welcome, fans of Cheese of Ages, to an ongoing series of looks at my Dungeons & Dragons campaign setting, Aretra, which has existed since about midway between 3rd edition and 3.5, and has recently been almost completely converted into 4th edition. So you can imagine my frustration with the announcement of 5th edition. I just recently finally transferred everything over to this edition, and now there's a new one coming out. But regardless, what makes my campaign setting different from all the other ones? Well, let's take a look. I'll move to my script and then read off the introduction to the campaign setting guide I'm working on. Aretra, World of Legends. The most distinct thing about the world of Aretra as a whole is that it is built upon the legacies of many players. Their legends not only exist as stories told around the table, but are ingrained within the very fabric of the setting itself. While this, at its core, is true of many settings, the difference here is in the scale. As players grow in power and influence, the actions they take and the threats they face are the kinds that shape regions and eventually the world and beyond. Every choice the players make can result in the collapse of cities or the deaths of allies. One bad choice might create a deadly enemy that might have been an ally, or turn a force of utter darkness into a hero. Rather than a campaign that focuses on the player characters or the world around them, games set in Aretra treat them as almost one and the same. As the game goes on, the players, their NPC allies, and the world around them all grow and develop organically. Aretran campaigns are driven very heavily both by the player involvement and the world's involvement with them. Players can change the world, and the world can change them. This is especially true in Aretra, due to the safeguards placed by the creator gods of the world. The current gods get all of their power from their followers' faith in them, their belief. The unforeseen side effect of this is that the beliefs of the masses carry the power to grant power, not only to gods, but to mortals as well. Heroes admired by thousands will find their prowess suddenly exaggerated, and villains renowned for their horrifying power very rarely fail to live up to their reputation. Thus, the most deadly enemies the players face aren't always the ones that hit the hardest, but instead those that are aware of the influence people can have on the world, and plot to take that power from themselves. It is from such a villain that Aretra is currently still recovering from. The orchestrator of an age that, while only 20 years long, was without question the darkest Aretra has suffered in known history. A villain that even the gods themselves, as powerful and confident as they are, visibly dread the mere mention of. The Dark Emperor. With the charisma and cunning to tap into the near-infinite power of manipulation, the man seized the entire world through that power alone. He was so skilled at this that even those that defeated him are uncertain of whether or not he planned for their victory, and live with a nagging paranoia in the back of their minds. The world is free, but still must learn to trust again. And the world is free, The world is free, but still must learn to trust again, and the actions of the Dark Emperor have left the world sitting on a powder keg of potential conflicts. The world is free, but one wrong move by the wrong person, and everything could come to an end. All because of the actions of one man. It falls to the players to shape the future. They bear the power to either save the world or break it, to take sides or remain impartial. Civil wars, religious wars, social collapse, the deaths of gods, the foundations of reality itself weakening. Aretra is most certainly in turmoil. No, worse than that. The most perceptive and informed can surely see the truth. Aretra itself is dying. The very thing that has allowed the ages of heroes in the past, the faith of the masses, has been turned into a poisoned knife that strikes at the heart of everything. And in this dire time of rising darkness, still more darkness is rising. Familiar darkness. Okay, dramatic and seriously flubbed up near the end there. Intro of book aside, what can you expect from this series of videos? Well, you can expect to look at the lore more extensively, including the history of the world. But most of the time you can look forward to the new crunch content, including benefits of entering groups known simply as the Silent and the Faithful, the Speakers and the Heretics, Chromatic Paladins, which are elite servants of the gods, Longcoats, which are gunslinging assassins, Lawkeepers, which are borderline religious zealots about enforcing order, void callers which seek to push the world into Armageddon, truth seekers, a race of former constructs that seek to convert their race back to the humanity it once had, and the unyielding, the ones that think the truth that the truth seekers preach is a lie. There's also races that you can only find in this campaign setting, including the Chackle, a race of Kappa goblin hybrids created by a mad scientist. Then there's the Arai and the Falchu, known as Skykin and Wolfkin, which are guardian race, the remnants of guardian races that have been driven to extinction. Falchu, Wolfkin being wolf people, and Arai being partially bipedal griffin people that enjoy riddles. And there's also Falseborn, which are a recently arriving race created by the machinations of an evil mastermind that's currently operating in the world. There's also Fioroma, which are another remnant of the Guardian races, but rather than being like the Arai and the Falchu, the Fioroma are manifestations of various protector aspects themselves. They seem to be the reincarnation of the Guardian species that died. And then there's Husks, living armor made from empathic stone and the life force of bonded allies. And then there's Periliths, half Meriliths, half Crusaders that went into the Nine Hells and the Abyss trying to destroy demonkind. And there's Ramasa, my campaign settings version of Warforged, which I actually made before Warforged came out way back in the day. There's Shimtar, people that suffered during many mage wars and became living spells that have to live every day of their lives trying not to basically dissipate or explode. And they're stillborn, partially undead people that were born undead. They're not talking like walking zombies or anything. They basically were born dead, but somehow are still moving around alive. No heartbeat, no life signs, but they're still moving. And there's character themes available both at Heroic and Paragon tier. I'm introducing a new dynamic called Paragon Themes. Anyway, there's Heroic themes, including a version of the fortune card manipulating character theme contoured to how my campaign setting uses them, because I use the fortune cards in a completely different way, which I will also go into. There's the Fortune Favored, a character theme for religious zealots such as the Law Keepers. False Ones, which are people that discovered that they are artificial people, basically similar to, the invasion of the Body Snatchers, although rather than being aliens, they were created by secret police during the Dark Age, that when they were the original was abducted and replaced with an imposter false one. You can play somebody that is one of those. And there's the Penitent Champion, the hero that has done something that they seek penance for. The Scion of Overdawn, you come from the cloud cities that are around Aretra and can fly to a limited extent. And there's the Outcast of Nadrevo, which means you come from the upside-down wacky world that's at the core of the planet. The Waking Advocate, which means you represent something. Life's Whipping Boy, you're a Chackle. That's basically everyone just kicks and treats badly, and you're the comic relief of the party. And there's the Rebel Survivor, you are part of a rebellion of some kind. And the Soldier of Vol Rochelle. Pronunciation is a bit weird for that. Basically, you come from the Fey continent. The Forsaken Wanderer, you are exiled for some reason. Some of these are generic, some of them not so much. A lot of these are associated with specific races. There's also Paragon themes, including a theme for the Longcoats I mentioned before, the Gunslinging Assassins. One for each type of the Chromatic Paladins, which are the elites of particular deities, like red, green, white, blue, black. And there's the Urban Knight, which is a sort of like the prestige class from 3.5, in which you become the defender of a specific city. And there's a a more specialized mercenary theme for Paragon tier called the Hero for Hire. And then there's a Student of Fate, where you study manipulation of fate. It's an expansion of the fortune-favored heroic theme. And there's the Scion of the Meek, where you represent the downtrodden. And then there's the Right Hand, where you're actually a servant of the legacy of the Dark Emperor, where you can be evil, well, not necessarily evil, but kind of in the gray area. Yeah. And there's classes, such as a variety of bard called the Legend Weaver, that manipulates the belief power, that gives legends their capabilities. And there's a variety of warlord I'm still working on, mind you, called the Captain, which is more aura focused. This might be a little hard to do, and it might end up getting dropped because the Scald does a lot of the things I planned on the Captain doing in much the same way. So we'll just discount that to Wizards of the Coast beating me to a good idea. And there's going to be a new variation of the Warlock called the Beneficus, which is closer to the 3.5 Warlock. There's a variation of the Artificer Assassin called the Vigilante. There's a rune piece known as the Ward Carver, which focuses on zones and fights through a summoned Eidolon rather than actually personally fighting. There's a Region Rider, which is a Ranger Paladin variant that focuses on mountain combat and terrain advantages. There's a variation of the monk called the Brawler, which focuses on strength rather than agility. And there's going to be new War Priest domains, and just a whole bunch of stuff. New skill powers, new feats, new weapons. I reintroduced the Masterwork weapon mechanic. There's going to be at least 75 new magic items, new boons, new artifacts that are exclusive to the world, including the Aretra's Librum, the Book of Aretra, which can tell the future but drive you insane at the same time. There's an entire bestiary of 75 or more monsters that I will look at. And of course, we'll be looking at the lands of Aretra, including all 4 layers of my campaign setting. The Surface World Center Day, the Cloud Cities of Overdawn, which also includes the realms of the Lesser Gods, Undernight, which is a shameless ripoff of the Underdark, and Nadrevo, which is the weird, wacky, opposite land at the center of the planet. So yes, tons of content to look forward to, and some of it fluff, or rather like lore stuff, if you're not familiar with the terminology, and a lot of it crunch. And I haven't even, this video didn't even actually feature me mentioning all of the videos. There's not videos, I didn't even mention all of the races that I have in this campaign setting, and some of the races that I did mention have subtle racial variants. How many races are we talking about if you include racial variants? About 32. Yeah, so look forward to all the crunch and fluff and all this, the goodiness, including the new way to use fortune cards that might be more universally received. So, yes, good stuff coming up, at least in my opinion. And I will be posting a video of the first thing we're going to be taking a look at is going to be the Falchu race, the Wolfkin. The very next video you see in this series will be the Falchu. Next video, tomorrow, or the day after, sometime within the next 2 days, I'll be getting that Gemini tutorial video up I was talking about. And then around the same time, day after maybe, you'll see a look at the Falchu.